Hi, my name is Di Smith and I put out a book called How an Astrologer Cured Others with Astrology, aided by the runes. What the feedback was from people who read it was that it was too advanced, and I found in making videos that the basics I'm continually repeating, and this has prompted me to explain the wheel. In my first video in learning astrology, I'm just going to focus on explaining the wheel, otherwise known as a zodiac wheel. We all have some knowledge of our own zodiac sign, but it isn't known by the general public that our planets are spread around all parts of the 12 signs. So, for instance, if our moon is in Capricorn, we could be emotional over governments and world politics. But if we go to another sign and put Mars in Aries alongside Venus, you might have a person who's passionate about cactuses. The wheel gives a great deal of information, and often people are scared because of this. But in doing these videos, I hope to give a better understanding to what astrology is about. But first, we still have to start with the basics. The wheel you see on the screen is the US Declaration of Independence, the time of that declaration. The date was given to me with referring to the runes and the time, because it took 2 days for the declaration to be confirmed, but initially was on the 2nd of July. It's called a natal chart, and some programs will put in the centre the aspects. These are degrees between planets, drawn by a straight line. If you look at the centre closely, you'll see squares and triangles. The triangles are known as trines. You'll also see asterisks, known as sextiles. In green are angles we call inconjuncts. They're 150-degree angles. And there are other minor aspects. I think this is the part that looks most confusing, but you'll need to guide yourself through your astrology program to have these aspects show up. I would suggest any budding astrologer should get an astrology program because it can save you hours of manual work. They actually allow you to see things, these lines that we're looking in the middle, without having to think too hard about them. They are extremely important. In saying that, don't take them for granted, because I've found the orb on the computer can give a leeway of 2 degrees on either side where you might want 4 degrees. But then in saying that, I've found a broader orb on looking at that chart, but I'll go into that another day. The long and the short blue lines are the easy flow, 120 degrees and 60-degree angles, if you're looking at the colour of these lines. Now, the 60-degree angles called sextiles. Actually, that's something to explain, is that astrologers only look to where the sun circles the earth, but in fact the earth is circling the sun. But all of these constellations are only in a 20-degree orb. If you focus, that you see a ball which is around the centre of it, that's where the constellations lie, all in that 2 inches around the centre. And that's the only part we focus on. And this is seen by how we interpret the sun and its path. Now, getting back to these lines, the red, the long and the short indicate The long indicates oppositions of 180 degree, where planets are directly opposite each other in that circle I was telling you about, in that orb. And the shorter ones are called squares. They're 90 degree angles. These are harsh angles. Now, I'm going to bring in here a blank zodiac wheel. And this is something like a basic wheel. The thing I like about this is that they have already put in the constellation symbols around the outer wing. These positions are only used when there is no time of birth. This is because Aries and the flow of the constellations have a governing effect over the houses. In Western astrology, where there is a time and birth, the first house begins on the left to give a better understanding. If we go back to United States independence wheel, after the darting lines in the centre, the aspects I earlier spoke of, the straight lines, the next wheel shows there are numbers 1 to 12 in an anti-clockwise motion, starting from the left. And these are what are called house positions, and will add to your information to a place where something will happen. Now, still looking at the United States chart, we start on the left, which is called the East, or otherwise known as the first house, which always starts on the cusp. Now the line is a little bit darker, and you can see this on the left, on the right, up the top and down the bottom. Now the left is called the ascendant. You'll see that on the ascendant there's 7 degrees Scorpio, 50 minutes. And above is called the midheaven. Latin is abbreviated to MC. And down the bottom you see the descendant. To the right you see the descendant. And down the bottom is the nadir. These are pinpointed as independent areas because they're active areas. If you have planets in these signs, in these areas, you're active in those areas. So you can see in this chart there's not planets in every one of those houses. So it means they're not activated. There's not much interest in them. In saying that, the first house stands for the immediate environment. And if we go to the top, it stands for the work area. And the right shows partnership area. And at the base, down the bottom, is the home environment. These are active areas, if there's planets in them. Now, after the house positions, you can see a scattering of planets. Then, to see the closest planets making aspects to each other, what I normally do is write up a flow chart. I start at the Sun, and it's 11 degrees 18 minutes in Cancer. Whenever doing charts, I like to begin with the Sun because it rules the physical part of the body. You can see this in blue in the 9th house at the top, just right of the midheaven. I should explain, here I'm just showing the closest planets by degrees. I've given more detail in the next video, Understanding the Planets. Now I'd like to move on. The next degree is Saturn, the green symbol on the left, at 14 degrees 45 minutes in Libra. The following planet is Mars on the right in the 8th house at 19 degrees 56 minutes in Gemini. Zodiac wheels are now including Chiron, which the next closest planet, which is the next closest planet, and is 20 degrees 06 in Aries. This is on the right hand side, just in the 6th house. I do not give much credence to it at the moment. It's simply because I can't find enough information on it. Whilst it is meant to be a healing planet, I can't tell you which part of the body it rules, or whether it's taken over a section of either Gemini or Virgo, which are presently both ruled by Mercury. And that would make sense if it was the ruler of Virgo, because the Virgo is already a healer. The other shared planet is Venus, which rules Taurus and Libra. The characteristics don't match Chiron's, though, Taurus and Libra. The other problem I have is that it seems to be dumped in the middle of Scorpio and Sagittarius, which I feel it probably wasn't noticed at that time. What I've found with planets being, when they're first noticed, is that they're generally in a house pertaining to them. Anyhow, and it can take varying times to go back to those houses that they rule. Anyhow, let's move on. The fact that it dumps Chiron between Sagittarius and Scorpio, it seems to upset the whole astrological philosophy. And I don't know if that's something that's been planned, but I'm just not happy with it at all. The next planet now is Neptune on the left in pale blue at 22 degrees 23 minutes in Virgo. So Neptune is in the 11th house, and it's a light blue, and it's on the left. To the right is a symbol that looks like it has ears. That's the Mercury, and it's 25 degrees 02 minutes retrograde in Cancer. The next one closest to it, and that's 26 degrees 42 minutes, but it's down the bottom, and it's in the 3rd house. Now, you notice these numbers, the houses are all going in anti-clockwise. And so it's in Capricorn, and it's next to Pluto. And that means there's a force there between those two. So Pluto is 27 degrees 36 Capricorn, and the moon is 26 degrees 42. So they're close in retrograde. Now this is something I'll explain in another video. Now the following planets, which I won't go into detail, are Venus, Jupiter, North Node, which I'll have to explain another time, which isn't a planet but a moon's node. And then there's Uranus. Now that's the flow chart. That's what I would do to work out what you're actually seeing by those lines, but to put it into a more defined category, so I can see which planet is moving on to the next. That's very important, because if we were looking at health, it would show us which planet was flying onto another planet and causing a problem. Look out for my next video, where I'll explain the meaning of houses, constellations and planets. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for listening, and bye for now.